Everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Amanda Samoyloff. I am the CEO and founder of Samoyloff PR. Kind of a bit about my backstory where I think that there's, obvious connections within the film industry is that after college, I came to Hollywood. I'm from LA, but I left Long Beach and came into Hollywood to be an actress. So I did a lot of acting work and I did a lot of networking. I did classes also that taught me about kind of PR for acting, which is where I started doing newsletters and just really trying to connect, network, things like that, like what Jen was just kind of saying. And within that process, I was working as a bartender and doing all those things. And it just really wasn't conducive to going on auditions. And I was doing small short films that I was creating myself. So I really wanted to look for kind of a side gig or something that was more daytime appropriate, so I could, leave and do things like that. So kind of remote stuff. So I was running up and down the Sunset Strip. I was in the music PR event space for a long time. So I was getting people to gigs, working at the House of Blues, working at Viper Room, all Whiskey Go Go, all that good stuff. So I really was infiltrated into the music scene, the music side of the stuff. I did Guns N' Roses after party at Coachella. I did the A2IM Awards, which is the American Association of Independent Music Awards in the Manhattan Ballroom. And I really was doing a lot of this stuff for PR for a vodka and music company. So I wasn't really quite getting the credit that you would say that I really deserve. So 7 years ago, a little over 7 years ago, I branched off and said, heck, I'm just going to go ahead and do Samoyloff PR. I'm going to figure it out. And this is a very different route than most PR people go through, right? They go to big corporations, they learn kind of from the bottom up. And I had to jump in and be like, okay, I'm going to learn every single one of these different parts of PR. And I was every single one of the roles, which really ended up benefiting me, I think, in the long run, because it taught me a lot about guerrilla marketing, PR, networking in a way that I don't think I would have really understood fully if I, kind of went on the same trajectory as other people. And that's just obviously only for me. Other people do other things. That's totally fine. But the trajectory to where Samoyloff PR is today is really because of me working 16, I know this is kind of toxic, 16 to 18 hours a day, really trying to push through and figure things out. So when it comes to that, I think that's really what sets me up on the stage, I guess, for DIY PR, right? Because I basically DIY my own firm, right? So anyway, So it went from music, it also did films and, actors and a lot of entertainment. 2020 hit, I really went into the financial space, which I learned a lot about investor relations, private equity, VC capital, and, obviously, as filmmakers and stuff, you're probably looking for investment as well. So there is this side of PR and, also getting yourself, I guess, looked at or media placements that might not always be so obvious, which would be, okay, let's go film route, right? What about investors and, distributors or, somebody who's going to buy your film? So those are some other things, but that's just kind of a roundup of, my trajectory from would-be actress in my early 20s to now at the end of my 30s and running a full PR and branding.
I would love to people who have a short film, for instance, because a lot of people, almost everybody here has a short film or will have a short film soon in the festival circuit. What is the biggest advice you give for using that? Because shorts are different than features. That's why I want to do the quick start with shorts. What is that advice you give people with short films to get themselves out there, get themselves seen as a filmmaker?
They're both very similar, but they're just more happens, I guess, with a feature. It's just a little bit more work once you get to that point. Because with shorts, you have a little bit more time. And I think the best thing that you could do, and this is across the board, is social media and then very different ways of doing social media, right? So if you have the cast doing Q&As, it's really about building your following no matter what. It's just, unfortunately, that is the world that we live in. So, creating a robust Instagram, TikTok, things like that give the behind the scenes. You could do really fun things too, like cast members. I don't know what the themes are, but playing around with Q&As that are really fun and interesting or, off the mark. You could also there's people that do tours, right? They do location tours. So they'll be this is where we filmed and kind of go through it really quickly, in a minute and a half, TikTok. But you can also be this is where to eat in these places. You can do a lot of things that you're going to kind of go viral about, but it's kind of offhand into your filming, right? I think also if you're going to hit low hanging fruit, which is things that you probably can get yourselves. Well, you can. You might not want to like say it's from your email, make a fake email up and say this is PR at whatever, right? And say that you're the PR person for them. It's fine, or yourself. And that's like, you can go, and I'm sure a lot of people, you have Canva, that's like really easy, or Canvas Rebel, that's really easy kind of to submit to get like at least a write-up about yourself. So you want to start SEOing people on your film. Like if they're not really high end, they don't have too much SEO, you definitely want to get them noticeable. So you have that. Authority magazine has like so many things that you can apply for, and they have it within the film world too. So like editors and stuff like that. And all you got to do is go to like Authority magazine and you look up like the different topics. Like they have different questionnaires, and you just submit like, hey, this is my bio. This is what what I do. I would love to be in this. And yes, it's a bit of a long process, but because so many people submit into that form, like the SEO is massive. So it will pop up and generate the second someone puts in your name. And you have the luxury of being able to edit those interviews down to where it's perfect for yourself, right? So you have that, I guess, control in some places that you don't. Also, podcasts. Podcasts are massive. They are evergreen. You get to talk in a very creative way. It can either be, the actors that are on it, the film directors, the creatives, whoever, the writers. There are so many podcasts. And, just so you know that like there was an advertising networking event in Los Angeles about a few months ago, and they're actually pulling advertising from big media now and putting them into podcasts. One, because that's where the audience is more or less, right? And it's evergreen, right? So that you get to like watch it all the time. After a while, some media placements, they kind of get lost in like the shuffle of like, search engines. And or they're protected by paywalls. So like a lot of people, even if you get into something, say like a TechCrunch or whatever, one of these bigger outlets, people have to still pay to read your article or get into that. So that's not actually SEO'd. Now a podcast, they see your face, they hear your voice, they hear your like how excited you are about it. And I think that we sell ourselves a lot better than sometimes even like what's on the paper. So like you being able to be animated and speak about what, your film is, that's great. I have a thing that's called like For the Love of Pod. It's like a 12-page booklet that like basically shows you how to find these podcasts, what to write, how to do follow-ups. It has all the emails and stuff, which we have it for like a certain amount online, but I can talk to Jen about giving you guys like a really, really massive discount if you guys want to have it. It's no problem to me. But those are really important. It's just those kinds of things I think you really need to start having presence, right? If you can do events, any type of an event, like say you have filmed at a bar or you filmed somewhere that, the local community or whatever wouldn't mind having like a little bit of a premiere, and this could be a private premiere, so it doesn't affect your festival submissions and stuff like that. That's always good. Just to like show its optics, right? Having those photos of like, oh, we did a premiere here, we did this, you did all these other things too. So that's kind of like where I would start with like the short films and also feature films. Honestly, it's really about your presence.
Whenever people are going out with their features they should be thinking about distribution before they even make their movie, but right. For those who have made their feature films, they're at film festivals, they're trying to get the best distribution. Do you have specific suggestions as far as PR goes?
Honestly, like there's only so far that I would be able to like assist in that aspect. I do think like taking any type of, photos that you're getting, if you have like any of these like kind of bigger photographers that might have a name, like trying to get a photo from them. Like if there's the red carpet, have those, I think trying to get post-event write-ups if you can, like especially if it's a local angle. So like if your festival is somewhere like if somebody in your film is from that area and or you are, local angles are incredible for PR. It's really easy. I wouldn't say easy, but it's like you write up, hey, this is a local that, has its film in this festival and, they do background stories. They do stuff all the time. And that's really great to blow up. Also, I think if you win anything, that's always ideal. Once you win stuff, obviously put that on your posters and utilizing that for post-event coverage as well. News desks are pretty easy to find. So it's like it's just their basic contact the news desk at this place, or this place. Obviously, like as a PR person, we have our own softwares that we pay to get into, which is, part of, hiring a PR firm because we have access to that. But I didn't have that for a really long time. And I had my own PR firm. So like, it really was about, for lack of a better word, Googling the shit out of people and just finding who they were and being like, there's their email. Got it.
So when you say that they should email the news desk, that's the email you're looking for, something at news desk.
Yeah. So it's usually news desk if it's that, unless you want to go above and beyond and go and do the research of like who it writes about maybe film or writes about what you're talking about. Like if you have a message within your film, that's something that they might be interested in, like then you could write to them directly. Another really great thing, find them on social media, find them on LinkedIn. Don't write them a pitch right there. Just connect with them and say like, hey, I've seen that you've written about this. We have a film about this. I just wanted to connect. Start relationships like that with journalists, because the best thing that you can become is a source for them to remember to come back to you. So like these are just human things, and it doesn't have to be as formal as emails all the time. Really, at this point, I think they appreciate Twitter, X, and LinkedIn as a place to send a message.
And I definitely want to ask you, because it's interesting that you mentioned, what is a strategy for someone who's got a feature film that they want to make and they're trying to get PR to get financing? Because you mentioned going to an audience that we wouldn't normally think about.
So I can give you guys kind of like a case study. How about that? Well, actually, two of my clients were in a documentary film called Show Her the Money that went on a tour, but they got in a few festivals. But what they actually ended up doing, whereas I think they got over $1 million within the first couple months, was they went to summits and conferences, and these were private screenings that people got to watch. And so it didn't affect their festival run. And after people were done, they saw it. Obviously, the thing was about Show Her the Money. It was about women getting less than 2% in VC funding still to this day. So it was that whole let's help. And so they invested in the film because of the messaging. So really diving deep into what it is that you're doing. And it doesn't have to be you could have a horror film that you really love, a thriller that doesn't have this deep meaning, but there are a huge audience, and there's people that love, thrillers and that kind of thing. So it really comes down to storytelling, which you guys can all obviously appreciate, but it's about finding the angle that you could feel that, okay, what would this audience invest in, right? Do they want to invest in this film because of this? Is it a distributor? Who it is? I think networking is also really important, trying to get out there, like you said, Jen. But as far as the finance angle in that realm, that's kind of was a case study that works really well for them. I think also just trying to get published in certain media that you probably wouldn't necessarily go after, right? So if you're looking at okay, let me think about how I could get into maybe Forbes, or how am I going to get into, The Economist, or, the LA Times or whatever. I mean, it's really just about how you pitch a story angle to these reporters or say, hey, we want to do an interview about this, right? That's also within the pitching. Shorter is better, honestly. If you can keep if you could put together a press release, or I guess for you guys, put together a one sheet about the film and all of the, really important bits on that one page to connect to an email. But really, it should be under 150 words. If you're going above that, you're not able to tell them exactly why you should be interviewed. And also they get so many, 50% of journalists essentially got fired at the beginning of January. So now there's 5 PR people, including people that are PR people, emailing one journalist every 5, right? So right now they're looking at their inboxes every morning, and there's 250 just to start. So you really are trying to make it really quick and easy for them. So anyway, that was a bit of a tangent, but coming back to the finance angle. Yeah. Looking at where, Financial Times, there's so many different kinds of places that are more niche-y, and they seem like maybe they don't have that big of a readership, but they do have the right people, the ones with the money that are reading those catalogs and things like that each day too. So it's the optics too. It's just trying to get as many placements as possible, I think, in the PR world, which is, again, podcasts and all that stuff, and just constantly sharing that.
I have a question about that one sheet, because considering the limitation that you put on it for 150 words, because as I mentioned in chat, I did the thing that you did, which was I didn't have software. I just found all these writers and just stalked them until I found their emails and stuff like that. But my one sheets were because it was for a feature film, it was about 2 or 3 paragraphs.
Oh, okay. So the email, the one sheet can be, honestly, my one sheets are like I use Canva and they can be 2 to 3
Oh,
pages.
yeah, no. Oh,
The email.
50 words. Oh,
No,
the email.
The email that's introducing that says, typically you'll be like, I have a one sheet that I can send you, because a lot of times people don't want attachments, but the one sheet's its own self, its own creative self.
Okay, I thought I got confused then.
No limitations there. I'm just talking about the initial email when you're like, hey, it's John. I had this thing going on, that part, just the email itself. Because some people will write like 400 or 500 word emails trying to sell their stuff to this person and they just don't read it.
Yeah. Okay, that was confusion on my part.
Okay, no, I'm sorry.
In that 150 words, what do you would say is the most important thing to convey?
The most important thing to convey is that you've read something that they've written, so that they know that you're not just going, woo, you're like, hey, I read this article that you wrote about this, and this is why I'm tying it in. This is why I think you will appreciate this pitch, or this is why I think that I would offer a really good or become a really good interviewee for this topic because of what you wrote over here. They just want to make sure that you aren't just like throwing them out there. They feel like you connected with them. And so it's just, it makes them feel human, in which they should, that I think is the most important. And then also just the respect of, the call to action, which is, would you like me to send my one sheet? Sometimes I'll send stuff anyway, the like link, but a lot of times I'll ask if they want it, just because it overcrowds their email inboxes with all of those attachments. So just like treating them that way. And also another thing I will say, follow-up emails are really important. I think that's where like 60% of my replies come from, but you want to wait at least like 7 to 10 days before the second follow-up, because it's like, give them a minute to like see it. They probably put it in a box, flagged it, something, and they'll come back to it. Or if they did forget it, they won't feel like, oh my God, you just wrote this yesterday. Chill out, like this person's a little annoying. So yeah, I always wait about 7 to 10 days.
I'm actually hiring a PR firm for something for the months of August through October for like a 3-month contract, because that's all we can afford, basically. Okay. But my question is basically, if all you can afford is a small amount of PR, or if all you have time for is a certain amount of PR, when in the life cycle of your film do you think it's best to do that work? Do you feel like it's best to do it when it premieres at the festival circuit, when you're trying to get it into distribution? Or
see, this is interesting. So it's weird, right? Because these are all different kinds of PR campaigns, right? So you're saying, like, if it's distribution, if it's premiere, if it's prior to, premiere. It's interesting too, because I mean, I get it, like the whole retainer thing, but like if somebody can break it down with you being like, okay, like we can always develop, your storylines here and do all this stuff. You're saying August, are you doing a for your consideration campaign, or are you?
This is actually, I'm going in with a friend on a sort of PR situation where we're sort of, for our mutual projects, we're uplifting them through a PR firm, because they all relate to accessibility specifically. And we have a lot of joint presentations coming up. And so we can promote both our film projects and our accessibility work simultaneously.
So you're starting in October and going to
August. Going to October.
And is this a feature film, or is this a short film?
Basically, there are 2 feature films that we're going to be working on having some materials for within this window that are in production at the moment.
They're in production right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I guess I don't really know too much about it. So if I knew more, probably would be able to help a little bit more. But like, from what I understand is like some ways that you can help like it progress. Like if it's in production, I think BTS and things like that are always good to have, whether you're going to put it out now or later, just doing kind of some of those other stuff. I don't know what the PR firm is. Do you know what they've set up to do? Are they just looking for press placements, or are they doing like some kind of campaign for, do you know what kind of campaign of this is, the 3-month campaign is?
I can tell you a bit about what they're doing, but my question is really like, do you think it's best to do it in the life cycle of while it's in production versus festival premiere versus just...
Ariel, what's your end goal? What do you want as a filmmaker? What is your goal for your film?
Basically to build audience as much as possible.
Then I would do that
for your film. This is one thing I tell all of my working directors. I say to them, like, You need to know why you're making your movie or you're wasting your time. Is your movie to get eyeballs on your movie? Like if you're making a feature film because you want a bunch of people to see it, are you making a feature film because if like it's a passion and you don't care if anybody sees it? Are you making it because you want more directing work? All of these kinds of reasons are different. And I think that you need to be very clear so that when you're paying for PR, you're working towards that goal. So that said, Amanda, please continue.
One quick thing, though, about mine is that my feature is specifically about disability representation in media. And so it feeds into all of the other work that I do in accessibility. So that's why I say
I love that. There's so much PR stuff that you can do behind that.
There's so much beyond that. And I think that if that's really where you're going, if that's what you're going for, it seems like that could be before. I think that that's fine. I think having those interviews and setting yourself up and being the kind of like that spokesperson to talk about it, that's all great. And I think that that is happening now and production is fine. I think that you can do that right now. So that's.
And I want to piggyback on Amanda. I think it's a great time to do in production because it's getting you out there. Mm-hmm. It's getting the film out there. But I really want you, all of you, I kind of feel like a film's going to come and go. You might think it's the best film in the world and still 10 people might watch it. So I think if you're going to pay for PR, it should always be for you.
Yep.
Always.
Yeah.
Get the next job lined up before this job is even over. Become the it person that people should know. Always make it about you.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly where I see PR is like the most important is people PR. Like people buy from other people that they like their stories and things like that and what you're passionate about. So of course, do that. It's good.
But that said, you're still going to need PR when you're ready to release and get butts in the seats and all of that. So
two different types of different. This is like kind of more like thought leadership and like social, like kind of justice in the sense of like PR to like get buzz around the films. So that's really good right now if that's where your like direction is. But when the film comes out, it's a completely different type of PR. And you also could look into marketing really in that sense when you want people to more or less buy products that's like clickable or to watch it. Marketing's really good in that sense, but PR is the one that kind of teed you up with the right storylines, the right places to go, the right directions, and then you already have things for them to use as far as ads. Like,
exactly. Hey, that's what I was going to say. The best part is you can repost all of this stuff when the movie's out. Bits and pieces, quotes, photos. I encourage all of you to follow Mo, who is on this call right now. She is very good about getting her PR out there, doing her DIY PR. And if you Google her name, it's all PR, her first page. So it's awesome.
So I have a question about local earned media. My friend is an actor and I'm not a director. I'm a writer producer.
Okay.
And he does this thing where he gets written up in like his alma mater periodical, and then he'll send it to agents because he's looking for reps. And I guess my question is it valuable to get local versus national? And also, because he hasn't had much success, to be honest. And also, how do you leverage any sort of coverage that you get, like the way that he's trying?
Okay. So, I mean, I think any press, like whether it's local and national is great. Obviously, national is going to give you a lot more eyeballs and a lot more cred. The optics of that are fantastic. But the thing is, having these lower level placements is what gets you to the higher placement ones, right? So when you're going out trying to pitch yourself to these like national level things and they go and search your name and they don't see you have ever done an interview or anything like that, they're like, okay, this is not an expert in the field, or, I can find somebody possibly better. So like, that's kind of like the trick, right? You want to start growing slowly from the bottom and just being like, and it's not the bottom. It's just, people that don't have as many followers on their media outlets or podcasts. And then that's kind of, I guess you would say, the leverage of it, right? So you get these people doing, or your friend, right? He does the interviews. You can use those quotes. You can have them do the clips from their podcast that they can utilize. You can repurpose those in Instagram and or TikTok or whatever, and social media wise. You can have all of those logos, right? Like a lot of times people don't really know how many people listen to this one podcast, but like you have the logo and you have it on a one sheet or, a EPK, electronic press kit, where it shows like, oh, I've been on this and it links out. That's fantastic. And that's also really helpful. As far as representation and all that stuff, obviously, I think getting the higher media placements, making sure that you're posting that, making sure you're thanking the writer, journalist who did that via social media is really important. Making sure that you send something. Some people go as far as to write a handwritten note to a journalist that wrote or took an interview and send it to them and kind of bring it there, or like something, send them like something for coffee. I've had clients do that for other writers, but I think it's more or less like for representation and stuff like that, they're going to look at following. So the best is try to connect as many of those journalists to those posts, try to get as many eyes on it, many as likes, many follows. And that's where the representation is going to typically kind of, lean towards is, oh, okay, he has a huge following. This is going to make me money. Right. That's what I see it as.
I came up with 2 questions in my end. I would have been listening. One is about SEO specifically. When you post things, let's say like I screened at X film festivals, I get some write up, whatever. Now I want to put it on like YouTube or something like that. So there are plenty of movies that have never had a festival run, no PR whatsoever, but their SEO game is out of control. And then you'll have like short films with like 1 million views. That on, but like, do you have any experience with SEO? And no one can guarantee that you're going to get 1 million eyeballs, but it's like definitely more than like 10. You know what I mean? Like with SEO, definitely helps.
Yeah. So this is like kind of like the both sides of the coin, right? So for PR, we do help a lot with the marketing aspects, but as far as like SEO marketing, like we don't do anything paid, everything's earned, right? So, I mean, some PR will be like, hey, it costs this much, but my firm doesn't, right? Everything's earned media. So for marketing and those like million views, the thing that I get worried about is if those views are real. First of all, I always second guess that. And if those comments are real, because there is those like robot kind of things that these marketing firms do have access to. But I do know like a trick and something that has been helpful is to keep, like, say you were going to put it on YouTube, right? To keep it as private, but just with like a password or a link, and try to get as many people to watch it before it goes live. Because when it goes live, similar to like if you sell a book, like the pre-orders, that all counts for that day's views. So that actually triggers it to be seen in ads for other things. So like if you were like, hey, getting all these people, even if you got like 5,000 people prior to you going live, there you go. And like that's the first count. So like immediately YouTube's going to be like, oh my gosh, 5,000 people just watched this, right? So that's really been helpful. I've seen some friends with music videos do that. Also, if you tied it to a feature or a press release that wants to talk about that, say that's what they're doing, you can tie it to that back channel backlinks. And then also like, I guess you can just utilize, your fan base of newsletter, whoever you talk to, say, hey, come and check this out. But that's all the earned media, PR way, I guess you would say. Marketing wise, you're probably going to be paying ad dollars for them to put ads up. And that I would definitely suggest you, venturing out to interview a lot of marketing people, because a lot of them, and ask them for actual case studies of what they've done. So you can actually vet them a bit, because some of them are bogus. I've worked with a lot. Some of them are incredible. Some of them do a really good job. So it just depends on it. So,
and then the second one that I have is, because you are correct, it's about the PR should be for the person, not for the movie specifically, because people will follow.
Yeah. I mean, there is PR for just
no. Yeah. No, I know that. That's for the reason, because you got to know the movie exists. But I mean, like in terms of like PRs me as an artist, as an individual. So I have a huge problem with social media specifically, because like I find this is the strangest thing you're ever going to hear anyone say. I don't intrinsically find what I do to be interesting, because it's what I like, for the process of making a movie and stuff. A lot of it is very banal. To me, it's not that exciting. And to share all of these things, to me, I want
to say this to you. First off, I am a filmmaker. I've made 6 feature films. I've made probably over 130 projects at this point, right? I'm still fascinated watching other people's behind the scenes and their process and what they do, and sharing in your wins. So first of all, I want to just get that out of your head. Like, I want you to post. I don't know what you're doing, what's going on. You should be excited to share with us. Otherwise, you're being selfish.
Yeah.
But what's your other problem?
Well, my problem is, I was just going to ask, like, what should I ask myself? Because I know that different people take like different angles of their approach and how to present themselves to the world. Like, what questions should I ask myself to find out what would be the best route for me to posture myself on social media? If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's like, but you can ask the people that do you have any kind of a following? Do you have your friends? Do you have like people that are, no, you don't.
I have friends that
I'm not saying yeah,
I have no one. Like besides like friends and family that follow, but like, like the biggest, like the bigger engagements I get with it are like when I went to South by Southwest, so the movie, when I went to the Academy Awards this year, so I posted a photo of me at the Academy Awards that I got like 100 plus whatever likes, which is like these days nothing, but like those are the things that'll gain the most traction. And then like other things that I'll post, no one.
That's the thing.
It's like friends and family. So like, if I'm going to try obviously there needs to be some sort of curation of like how I present myself.
Yeah.
The question is, how do I figure out what best suits me, where I feel the most where I can ask myself, so I know like what place to what my strengths are. Because obviously you don't know my strengths.
Right.
Like,
well, I would just feel like the 5 things. I mean, I think that, okay, so a lot of times when you're doing social media, which is essentially non-traditional PR these days, right? So it's like a lot of times you'll figure out 5 different types of categories. So like they'll be like, okay, we're going to do one is behind the scenes, and this is like where we do this. Another one is like, okay, we're going to coach or teach somebody like how to, very easy, 1, 2, 3. Another one could be a quote, a quote that they said, or somebody that, let's say in the movies, that has shared a quote that they really find passionate about. Either way, they kind of curate different series of posts. So you can be like, for yourself, be like, okay, what really interests me? Like, what do I really love? And then post about that, because that's going to give you joy to find those things. So if you're like, I really like to know about this, there are people out there that are going to love that too. It's really just going to come down to using the right hashtags, which you can use allhashtags.com. It's free, and you can put in any word and it'll give you all the hashtags that are trending in that realm or something like that. But anyway, I feel like Jen might have something to say too.
My thing with filmmakers that I'm trying to get everybody to understand is that I want you on Facebook, because that's where you'll find a lot of your work, because that's where a lot of your closer network is. You've got to be on TikTok. I cannot stress that enough. I know if you're not on it, it's a scary place to be, but you're going to get out to way more people through TikTok than you're going to get out through any other social media. And the best thing about TikTok is they want authentic people.
Yeah.
And John Flynn, if I haven't met someone who's more like authentically no bullshit themselves with everything they say, do, post, it's you. You literally could be on TikTok and say like, I'm on TikTok and I hate it, but I've been told I have to do this today. And it will get views. Like, it's so good for you. And once you get past it, because I still hate it too. I only ever post interviews at this point. I got to get over that. Like, if you could get past that and just start posting every time you're on set, every time you're thinking of anything. If there's a film you just watched and you're like, I haven't watched this in 30 years, I have to talk about it, and here's why I love it so much. Then we start to get to know you more as a filmmaker. Just things like that, being authentically you.
Yeah. I have like a friend that did that too. And he was just like making commentary about like just weird, like people saying stuff. And then he would comment back. And now he has like 1 million like followers. And he's like, it's like become a business for him. But like he literally just started just talking, and then he found his way within the TikTok world, like what was working, like what people were watching more than they were. And I think that's what you'll find as well, John, that you'll be like, oh, they like when I say it like this. Or they like when I'm really raw and just like don't care.
Which is you, John. You are a very direct person. So if you should share that with the world.
Yeah, that's probably the little core of the confidence boost that I needed. Oh, trust me.
And go on TikTok and look up what other people are doing too,
Yeah, I do a lot of like it's very, because like you have like the two sides of like film TikTok are like the letterboxd / film bros who announce.
No one's watching that.
Yeah. And then you have people who do make movies, but then like they'll just like showcase off like the cinematography, like they'll repost their movie like 500 times, and it'll get like one of them will get.
What I find in my feed the most, everybody on here, this will fit you. I don't care if you're an actor, producer, writer, whatever. The things that hit my feed the most are people being real.
So if TikTok's what you're using for like
okay, these are my thoughts. This is how I approach filmmaking. This is who I am, blah, blah, blah. What are you using each form of social media for? Or what should you be like? If it's TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or X or any of those.
I mean, I guess I think like LinkedIn is really great for like, I think the investor world. I definitely like financial stuff, like connecting with also reporters, or a lot of them have jumped ship of X and gone to LinkedIn. So that's really good for just connecting in those like realms of like really traditional PR and like financial business stuff. TikTok is just for, I think, anybody and everything. I think it's just to be fun, be out there, get more people coming to your profile, have that link to Linktree or whatever, something similar to that, so that people can click on that and then go to whatever they're looking for, like whether it's your film trailer or any other social platforms. And then, and Facebook, I think is really great for, all the people that have been in your life for a long time, your friends, your family, that's where they're all at. But a lot of them can help, and a lot of them know people that probably can help. So I think that that's a really
Facebook's important if you're kickstarting. And also what I tell working directors or directors who are trying to learn to be working directors is use Facebook. That's your closer network. So you can feel comfortable putting up something like, hey, I'm looking to direct a music video this month. I'll do it for free or whatever you want to say. Anybody got any connections? That's a great place for Facebook. I've gotten a lot of work being like, hey, like whatever it is, like, go do an actor reel marathon. I put that on Facebook. I wouldn't put that anywhere else because I don't want some bulls, like the other places could be scarier. So you can do more personal stuff on Facebook.
Yeah, that's exactly. And I think you can be like, a little bit more open and for those asks, like even if you're asking for, money or whatever for funding for something, I think that's easy to put up there. And then Instagram, I think really is like kind of in limbo because it's like, it was something that was really the number one. TikTok kind of has taken over, but it's still trying to like be like TikTok too with its reels. So I would just kind of utilize it the same, but like it's more curated and obviously prettier on Instagram. Like people want those to be more edited and more like refined. And that whereas TikTok is like, you don't need to do anything, like they want to see you as raw as possible. So it's kind of like reality versus Instagram.
And y'all, just want to remind you that there's always going to be haters. The first video I ever put up, camera gear, immediately 2 white dudes jumped on it and said something negative. It's just the world we live in. So I would just ban haters, delete haters, and just don't let it discourage you is my point. Because there is my TikTok has become very positive. Most of the comments are of people on, I see other people's TikToks are very positive.
My question is in regard to social media. Do you think it's okay to tie back your film to your personal accounts, or do you recommend always having separate accounts for your projects?
I use separate accounts. Like when it comes to really personal, like I keep that, you want to keep those private. And like, if that's just your friend.
We are so going to have a disagreement discussion on this one, but go ahead, Amanda.
Yeah. So, but like, as far as like all of your projects and stuff, like I would keep it on one place and like they could follow you there too. But I guess like the only problem, we're going to have this conversation because I'm also a poet. So I keep all of my poetry and everything on a different thing because and my friends and family will follow that. But like, I'm not going to also put pictures of my nephews underneath my poetry, page. So I'm trying to keep them separate. But I mean, I would love to hear what Jen has to say, but I try to keep those.
This is a conversation that comes up a lot about social media. And I am such an advocate for just ditch the personal pages completely or be okay putting, which I like better, put personal stuff within your business stuff so we can get to know you because people want to know you. Mm-hmm. Your personal pages are serving you no good. It's like, oh, I connect with family. Great. Bring family to your public pages. And then unless you really are dying to share pictures of your baby and the food you ate at lunch, like nobody cares. If you're going to spend time on social media, spend time building your career. Don't spend time with the other crap. And also get off. There's too much. You're spending too much time on social media already. I guarantee it.
I guess it also just depends on what kind of business it is too, right? Like there's like, I've worked with aesthetic doctors who are like, okay, this is aesthetics, like, Botox, like it's going to be on a different page than like my baby pictures. But like with film and stuff like that, that might be a little bit different because it is so like creative and you're like, it's
and your films are personal to you. Absolutely. That's why I think you should just have the one and just, I want to know when you get a new nerdy hat, and I want to know when your film is out. Do you know what I'm saying? I want to know all the things.
Yeah, I think as far as creatives, I would agree with that. But like if you're selling like product stuff, like or anything like that, I would keep that separate. But that's more of like B2B and stuff like that, B2C. So but with this, I think because it is your creative flair, I think it's totally fine to keep it in one place.
Vanda, I'd love to have you answer the question that also comes up a lot, is if we're going to hire a PR person, which my team has done in the past, It went so badly that we ended up having to sue the PR person. We won the judgment, never saw our money back. I've been very scared of PR people since. How do we know we are hiring a good PR person if we don't want to do it ourselves?
Honestly, ask the questions, see if they care enough. I think boutique PR firms, I mean, obviously I'm going to be biased, but are going to be way more in your corner than a big PR firm because you're just another person on the block. Also, you have access to people like me and the boutique PR firms where it's like you're actually working with the top, and also just seeing if they dig what you're doing. Are they interested in it? Is this something that also lights them up? Because they're supposed to be your people, right? Like you want them to kind of be your fans in a way too, obviously, that support you. It's similar like what they say about your customer should be your biggest fan as well. Like somebody who wears your product. Like that's a similar, like if somebody is in PR, they love film and they love like all the things that you're doing and they vibe with you, that's great. I think Anne's asking the questions of, is it bespoke? Like, have you sat down and wrote like what this looks like for me? Are you collaborative? How many conversations do you have? We do weekly calls, always an hour with all of our clients, just because we need to tap in with them. Our gates are open. We have Slack. We're constantly having conversations. I also think that just kind of vetting to see if they are creatives as well, right? Because the thing is, for film, you're going to want somebody that is good at storytelling. And some PR is good at storytelling. Some of them might just be pushing a story that you put through, and that's fine. But I do think that you want somebody that also like lends into the creative world as well. I also think having them make sure that they're giving monthly reports. I think also seeing if they have different packages, if they're saying this is the only thing that we offer, like how have you looked at like what this is going to look like? There's no way that it follows the exact same principle each client. There's just no way possible. So I think just finding out if they're not as lazy, if they're not just following the same system that they always do, and they're actually invested in your project, is going to be a great start. Another thing you could do is like see if they'll do like a 6-week campaign where they can start building it out for you and give you the option of doing it yourself. Being like, okay, we're going to do 6 weeks. This is how we would do it. We're going to put it all together. If you want to pay for the rest and we'll do all of this, reach out and continue, then we'll do it. If not, then you can see like their work before you invest much more and be like, oh, you actually took the time. This is the story. These are the angles. You've set it up for me really nicely if I want to do it. If not, then that's what I do.
Is there a way to know if they actually have either the connections or the know-how to get you in publications?
That's difficult, right? Because you got things like Quoted, which you guys all can use too. Quoted is Quoted. It's free. The paid one is like you basically, so these are journalists. They go, hey, I need a quote for something about film and I need an expert, right? And so you're able to freely like submit yourself for a quote in that after 2 hours, unless you have the paid version, you get it right away. People are throwing out quotes to people from New York Times and stuff like that all the time. And so then maybe they'll get a client in there quoting something, but it really went through this system. So they don't really have this connection with this publicist. Now, if you see that their clients have gotten features, like where they have a full write-up, full interview, then they obviously have a connection there. I would also just interview their past client. I think that that's a really great place to start. Like if you look and say, hey, okay, who is on your roster? Who have you worked with before? It's not illegal to call up that person or email them and be like, hey, I just wanted to kind of like ask what your experience with this PR firm was, since we're kind of in the similar boat. And do they actually have this plethora of connections, or is it kind of smoke and mirrors? Because there's a lot of that too, right? People can do that. And it takes a long time to get those contacts, and journalists are constantly moving to different outlets too. So yeah, I think it's just